All right, so this is day number 3 of our Holy Week reflections, and we want to look at Luke again and talk about something that's might strike us kind of close to home. Or at least it's a word that we don't necessarily want to apply to ourselves or think of ourselves as associated with, and it's the word betrayal. And we're going to be talking about Judas, but we're also going to be talking about Jesus' main crew. The 12 disciples, who Judas was one of them. And in Luke 22, verse 3, it says that Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. It means he was part of the main core of Jesus' disciples. And he went and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. And as the story unfolds of Jesus' betrayal, we also see that his 11 other disciples would actually leave him, would run away, would not stand with him at the hour of his betrayal. And that's something that we have to look at ourselves and check ourselves. How are we holding on to Jesus? Do we stand with him through thick and thin? Or are we going to leave him when going gets tough? It's a hard thing. But one thing I do want us to look at and see it from his perspective, from Jesus' perspective. These were 12 of his closest people. It's these 12 who betrayed him. It was someone close to him. It was one of the 12 who actually did literally betray him to the Pharisees and Sadducees. And you got to imagine the hurt in that. Eventually, Judas would come into Gethsemane where Jesus was praying and would give him a kiss as a sign of who Jesus was, because it was dark out. And he would ask, "You would betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" One of his best friends betraying him. And then shortly after that, his disciples, the rest of the 11, would duck out and leave Jesus there arrested to be tortured and questioned and put under trial for the whole night. And so from our perspective, we don't want to be one of those 12. We don't want to be a Judas. We don't want to be even one of the 12. But there's some grace in there. Remember how Jesus actually restores the 11. And if you were asking me, if Judas would have come to him afterwards, there would be grace for him to actually be restored as well. Because he was put under extreme guilt, so much so that he ended up taking his own life. And we don't want to be in that place. There's grace for coming back to Jesus. There's grace in making reconciliation. But more than that, what about the times you've been hurt by somebody close? What about the times when you hurt somebody close? And then even a step closer in. What about the times you've hurt the Lord in how you acted, in how you behaved, in what you said or thought? So the question is, am I at peace with God, and am I at peace with others? In Matthew chapter 5, it talks about if you have an offering, if you're about to present an offering at the temple, if you're about to go to a worship service, and you remember that you have offended somebody, or somebody might have something against you, you sinned against somebody, it says, leave that offering there. Go and get right with that person or those people. And then later in Matthew, in chapter 18, it talks about if somebody's offended you, sinned against you, you should go to them directly. So that way you can make a reconciliation. The goal is reconciliation. Jesus came to reconcile the world to himself. He made a way for you to be reconciled, even if you're in a place where you have turned your back on him. He's calling back to you, asking, would you be reconciled? Let's enter this day thinking about this.